Welcome to the Brand Equity Martech Dialogue. Partnered by WebEngage, this initiative brings leading marketeers together to debate and discuss the new age possibilities and tech-led opportunities in a fast-evolving marketing ecosystem. Thank you for joining us. Please extend a warm welcome to our eminent panel.
Good morning, everyone. Hope all of you are doing well and staying safe. The pandemic has changed our lives in many ways. Our approach to health, interactions with friends, and the way we work, the way we run our homes, and most definitely the way we shop. We see many first-time consumers have adopted digital commerce channels. More and more people are shopping for everyday needs and luxury items online. From groceries to sanitizers to clothes to washing machines. Then need to a physical visit to a store continues to fade. And even post this lockdown, I think consumers are staying hunkered down at home to avoid contracting the coronavirus and turning to online shopping products that they traditionally bought in stores. Going forward, one can expect these new digital interactions to remain sticky, quite at expense of the offline commerce and physical stores, if I may say. This massive shift in the market is caused by the influx of online shoppers would obviously mean that brands would have to increase their investments in building their presence and marketing their products online. Brands will not just spend on digital performance channels as they did before, but also on digital brand building and conversational marketing. Digital marketing is going to witness an incredible increase during and post COVID-19, in my view. And as the behavior of the consumer changes, to talk about how to get ready for building digital experiences, navigating this whole space of digital transformation, and getting the consumer to love you in the digital world, I have a power-packed panel today. Let me start by introducing Pankaj, who's our first panelist. He's an FMCG marketing enthusiast. He's been with L'Oreal since 2004. And since earlier this year, he took over the role as director of L'Oreal India's consumer product division. In his role, apart from building brand salience, he focuses on driving consumer engagement while expanding L'Oreal's footprint in India through new growth drivers like e-commerce. On a personal front, he loves sports and travel. He likes to travel to historical destinations, which I'm sure he's missing these days. But like most parents would agree, at present, his 4-year-old daughter fills up his space, all his personal space, and she creates the most joyful moments. Our next panelist is Karan, who's in the thick of India's online education boom. He joined one of the country's youngest EdTech brands, Unacademy, after a successful stint at Xiaomi in 2019. And in less than a year, he helped Unacademy to reach new heights as the marketing chief of the newborn unicorn. He's a hugely awarded marketer, and I'm not going to read out the list of awards he's got because it's going to take too much time. But I know he loves this current weather of the rains and doesn't like to give up a chance to listening to good music and driving whenever he gets a chance. Our next panelist is Kleur, who heads customer success and professional services team at WebEngage and has built this practice grounds up. He's an engineering graduate in computer science from the university. He also shares his and is missing his travels. But Kleur, you'll be pleased to know that we have Sujata, whose big passion outside of her work is music as well. And she has been a lead vocalist of a rock band called Midlife Crisis for the past 6 years. She's also performed in a musical production of Mamma Mia held in Delhi and Gurgaon. And I'm definitely looking forward to hearing you very soon, Sujata. But professionally, Sujata is a very experienced marketer and currently is the head of marketing for Visa, India and South Asia. She started a career with P&G and over the years has gathered rich experience in sales and marketing across blue-blooded companies such as Gillette, Nokia, Google, and Coca-Cola. And again, she's been hugely awarded for her work. And to introduce myself now, my name is Rubina. I am the CEO of iProspect, which is India's premier digital marketing agency focused on driving business performance for our clients. iProspect is a global agency and is part of the Dentsu Aegis network. Prior to this, I was running Money Control, where I spent 12 years with Network 18. Personally, I would say don't be deceived by my smile. I'm a bit of a badass and I don't like people messing with me. And that's why I practice kickboxing every day. And I'm also learning how to ride a motorcycle. With that, let's straight jump into our conversation today and understand first, Kure, I'm going to start with you and ask you, how is life after, the sweatpants era? What are the emerging trends that one can expect to see in digital marketing?
Right. So I think I've seen a lot of paradigm shift in across verticals. Being with a company like WebEngage, where we have multiple verticals that we cater to, we have seen this shift in terms of how people are approaching towards the digital space across different verticals. Just to give some context, I've seen e-commerce, where they were pre-COVID. Say, I'm just comparing with Jan as the benchmark. And I think the initial few months when the lockdown was there, there was a sharp dip in terms of so while there was demand, but supply was still the problem because there was operational problems that they used to face on ground. And slowly and steadily by May, I think things have gone back to normal. At least they have managed their supply chain back. And from May to August, I see roughly 91% jump in traffic. That's phenomenal. In this, I think that's a kind of a headwind for them, which they are riding on right now. And just to compare similarly with respect to how the engagement has been, there's approximately 47% increase in terms of their engagement numbers as well. So what they used to engage users in the months of say May, they have gone back. They have increased those by August. This last month, it's roughly 47% increase. Similarly, I've seen similar trends in case of EdTech, for example. And in their case, and I think Karan would agree to that. The trend has been more. They have got much more huge increase in terms of traffic. And even in terms of engagement, that ranges somewhere close to almost 200% increase in terms of traffic for some of the brands that we have seen. There is a huge digital push definitely that has happened. People have been catering to this new normal that you would say. As you mentioned earlier, I see there is an adoption of newer channels of engagement as well. The conversational channels like WhatsApp are something that people are adopting more. I'm also seeing increased focus on certain brands towards tier two markets. For example, there are brands who were catering primarily to tier one cities, but with this whole pandemic situation, they have seen new opportunities in tier two. And to cater to tier two cities, they have ensured that they are going multilingual as well. You will see a lot of sites who would offer Hindi as a content. They have also gone to more regional languages like Tamil or Kannada or stuff like that for South India, and that's how people are making sure that they cater to one-to-one personalized experience for their end users. Also, channels like IVR have started picking up as well in order to cater to the same market, which is tier two, where people are not very savvy in terms of interacting, on an app, for example, but or a push notification for that instance. In those cases, channels like IVR will come in very handy. For example, we have certain customers in the insurance space who claim to almost digitize most of their renewals to that extent that 90% of their renewals are non-human assistant. They go through only a digital experience, which includes channels like IVR. For example, they would send a communication to the user, which has personalization. They will call out their car number, their bike number, the make model as well. And then they would ask them whether you want your renewal documentation over email or SMS. Where do I send you a payment link? And that again, as an input to the IVR, follows through with an SMS or an email as their preferred channel so that they can complete the transaction end to end. One more notable, thing that I would like to highlight, which I'm very impressed with the kind of personalization that people have picked, is an example of Merit Nation, which is in the EdTech space, which has been recently acquired by Akash Digital. One of the examples that they have utilized in terms of personalization of a traditional channel like a push notification. Is to include images of the teacher who is teaching the course, stating to the students that your teacher has arrived. I am starting the class, and make it like push, as the teacher speaking through your push notifications to tell them to attend the course. So those are very good examples that I've seen, which brands have adopted, uh, and how the shift has happened from a traditional offline marketing towards a more digital experience, and how they are also trying to mimic an offline ecosystem in an online world. That's very important. You don't have a human present directly over there, but your communication still be humanized in nature, and that's how people have been adopting to this.
Absolutely, Kiran. I agree with you. I think this whole COVID situation has accelerated brands adopting digital and evolving their digital models much sooner than we would have ever imagined. What we expected to happen in the next 5 years has happened in the past 5 months, if I can put it.
So,
And Pankaj, I want to ask you, and this is, a question that it's sort of a personal question as well. So I'm very fond of makeup, and I used to use a lot of makeup. But currently, with the situation that you have to continuously use a mask if you step out, and at home, it's too much effort putting up makeup and sitting. So just at home, how is the beauty industry pivoting? What are you doing to kind of engage with your customers and still be relevant with them? Are there going to be like something like mask-free makeup coming up, which doesn't, dab on your mask when you wear, or is there innovations you're thinking in that space? I don't know. I'd love to hear you on that.
Thanks, Rabina. I'm glad to be here. For the beauty industry, which was already very pro-digital even before the pandemic, has pivoted very fast to leverage on the new digital possibilities in the last 6 months. Digital continues to be the fastest growing media platform for the beauty industry, and even faster now given the time spent on digital has increased manifold. And today it is capable of providing immense reach, customized reach, as Kayur spoke about, with the high rise in mobile penetration. It's needless to say that today the digital capabilities are fast becoming a cornerstone of the business, and no beauty brand could think of survival without putting digital in the heart of its consumer strategy. Today it is capable, lately with pandemic, the impact of digital in commerce has been quite significant. And you mentioned about shopping for your favorite lip color. And this is completely redefining the landscape, the way business is getting done. We have seen, again, very fast momentum on e-commerce. Kayur spoke about it. Rise of hyper-local model, okay. Emergence of omni-channel ecosystem, which is very new and developing very fast.
Right.
So no different for us in L'Oreal, where we have taken a digital-first approach, and today 100% of our portfolio has strong digital presence, and are in the process of creating beauty tech ecosystem to create seamless experience for our consumers across all touch points. So there are many consumers like you who are shopping online, offline, are coming to online. So how do we make that possible through our AR and VR technology? How could we have the diagnostic tools? How could we have more virtual try-ons on our websites, on the point of shopping, which is enabling these consumers to make the transition more smooth? One big impact which we don't see from outside is the upskilling of this whole organization. Since the operating ecosystem is transforming, so everyone needs to redo their playbooks, with digital first thinking. So that's been, I think, is a major change when you think about brands, when you think about organization, given the ecosystem is changing. So if in two words, it's disruption and transformation taking place at the same time.
That's interesting, because I agree that I have seen a lot of beauty brands being in the front runner, especially trying, and even pre this pandemic, trying AR and VR technologies, to connect with customers digitally. I also want to ask you a little bit more on what are you doing in the product space? Are you rethinking, reimagining your products? And that was running on my mind. Is that changing as well? Is beauty moving more to, if I can say, from outside to inside, in the cliched word, like they say it? Are brands thinking of it like that?
So, one clear trend what we have seen in beauty is definitely DIY, right? So there are products which you used to consume outside your home, but you are bringing that outside inside, right? So that is the trend which is growing very fast, and brands have pivoted to provide solutions in that segment to the consumers. Examples for us like home hair coloration. So all because the footfalls in salons is less. People are pivoting more towards home hair coloration, and here we have enabled through tech, through digital, to handhold the consumers while she tries her first hair color at home. The other example is the new category, which is our face mask, which are ready to use, which could provide could save your trip to a salon for a facial. So those are the categories where we are focusing a lot more, okay, because that's the response to the consumer behavior. So there is pivoting in terms of the innovations you are putting in the pipeline. The current categories, some categories are doing much better than the other beauty categories, and the pivoting and the prioritization is taking place as we are going through this COVID period.
I couldn't agree more. Sujata, asking you next, obviously during this phase, there's been a huge adoption of digital commerce, and as a result of it, I think finally card transactions have really gone up as against cash transactions. For one is digital, and also I think personally when I go to stores, I have a little phobia of touching things now, if I may say, so I don't do any petty cash transactions also, which I was doing earlier. While transactions have really gone up, at the same point in time, we read a lot of reports on consumer sentiment, spending behavior, etc. that is low right now. How are the values stacking up against it? Are you seeing a dip in the values, or values are in absolute also going up? I'd love to hear your thoughts around that.
Well, actually, number one, it's really important to strike a balance between volume and value. And as you rightly said, people are really, in the past 5 months, they have seen, the need to go cashless, as we say, do not want to touch the cash. And it's interesting because earlier for us to reach consumers to do transactions, we used to see that volumes would come if you went into traditional media, and value would come through the niche, the niche digital customer. But however, today it's really changed, because what we're finding is so many consumers now are only online. They're not at all on the traditional media. So as you rightly said, our biggest focus in Visa is on digital payments to get people to go from cash to cashless. And for that, we need both volumes and value to go up as well. Obviously, we've seen a huge growth in volume transactions, because prior to COVID, more than 85% of transactions were done by cash. So even when people did e-commerce, India was the only country where markets adopted a cash on delivery module, which didn't exist anywhere else. However, during COVID, a lot of these delivery services stopped doing that. So what we've seen is in areas of food delivery, grocery, pharma, these are the three biggest segments where people used to use cash. That's been the huge growth we've seen in volume transaction growth. However, what we see is as people start using it and become evolved, then they're more comfortable with transactions on a cashless method. So value has also grown. And as you rightly said right in the beginning, people are now buying TVs, washing machines, refrigerators, everything that they used to earlier go to a shop, want to touch and feel before they would buy it. They're now buying it online and using non-cash payments for that. So what we've actually seen is a huge growth both in volume transactions, and like I said, that's because key segments of food, grocery, pharma have become something that people do online through cashless methods, but also in value, because like I said, once people get comfortable with buying the smaller things, then they upgrade and they start buying the higher value items as well.
So if I can say, the pandemic has actually had a positive impact on your industry. And Karan, I think the same with you. EdTech has been one of the big beneficiaries, is booming and continues to grow. And I was looking at some search trends and it just doesn't stop. It's going through the roof. What do you think is going to be happening in the mid to long term in the EdTech space, Karan? Is it going to be, are people going to continue with this digital learning only, or do you think a hybrid sort of model will evolve and is more, is going to be more real, let's say, in the next 3 years?
Um, I think it was waiting to happen anyway, Rubina. I think, online learning is the way forward. There are multiple benefits. The quality of learning, the fact that you can learn from India's best educators sitting out of anywhere, anytime. The class is also available for you to go back and revise. So there are a lot of benefits online that you get. There's this apprehension or doubts in the mind saying that, how do I interact with the educator? But it's a two-way learning process. So, you can also ask questions. The educator conducts polls. There are multiple benefits. What we've also seen is that the stickiness to the platform has gone up significantly. And I think these habits are going to be hard to reverse. As for what online learning is doing currently, it's democratizing education. I think Unacademy as a brand has been democratizing education, making it available to any student who has a dream to learn and pursue their careers at any magnitude. They now have the opportunity or an equal opportunity to learn from the best educators, irrespective of what background, social strata, or geography that they're coming from. So I think this change is here to stay. Like you said, the hybrid module will exist. It's not a competition. I think both industries would complement each other. That said, it's going to be hard to reverse the change given the kind of learnings that we've had in the last few months.
I agree. I think, like they say, it takes a few weeks to form a habit. And now I think all of us, even when it's work from home or learning personalized through digital, I think at our own pace, or watching entertainment at our own pace, at our own times, I think we've all got used to it and we've adopted it. And I believe it's sticky in the long.
I think another point is, in the past, we would have all traveled for this, been at a specific place and done it. And now we're all sitting out of different cities and still managing to, communicate and conduct it. So I think that's the benefit of online overall. It helps saves time, accessibility, and a lot of other benefits that come along with it.
Yeah, sure. Kira, I want to get in a little deeper with this conversation and start that off with you because you would have a larger industry view, and ask you, we all have agreed that COVID-19 has heightened the pressing need for digital experiences and avenues, and thereby accelerating digital transformation in multiple industries, right?
Right.
Do you really think brands are adapting to it as quickly as they should? Are they doing enough?
Right. So for some verticals, it became more like a do or die, I would say. They had to adopt to these new means and the new normal that has been set across due to the pandemic. They had to transform as well. So, people have pivoted from a segment which would be luxury segment to even, selling sanitizers as well at this moment, just to keep themselves, alive in this pandemic scenario, to figure out what next they can do. But just to take a few examples or a few verticals where I've seen this rapid acceleration, I would say, are the likes of D2C brands, the brands like MyGlam, Arata. There are a lot of those direct-to-consumer brands who were selling on, across different marketplaces. They were selling offline. They have adopted this digital transformation. There's a heavy investment from them that we see in terms of marketing technologies, in terms of trying to create their own first-party data, so to say, their own brand awareness, their own reach outs to the consumers directly. So that's one big shift that I see in that vertical, where people are not relying on while marketplaces still continue to give them their revenues, but they are increasing their investment on their own brand building as well alongside. Apart from this, I also see a rapid expansion in the BFSI segment. Traditionally, which operated on the offline world, having a lot of banking points and having field agents running around and trying to get their leads. They see they are investing heavily on ideas like things like data lakes, having a single view of customer, trying to have all the information pulled into one single source, one single system. To that extent that they are also thinking ahead of time now, considering that they are getting all their information at one single point. There are some brands who are thinking ahead and uh, focusing on having different views for different teams as well. You will have a card team who has a different view than a banking team, and has a different view than a call center team who is just managing, say, complaints or grievances. But to that extent that each of these teams and their data are now talking to each other. For example, if I have a customer who has complained to me about some issue, they are ensuring that there's no offer going out to those consumers until their complaint is resolved. So they are creating those temporary blacklists, so to say, for marketing teams who should not touch upon some of these consumers because of some bad experience that they have had right now. And until it's get resolved, only then they will get back into the normal pool where you will send offers. I also touched upon the fact of how tier two adoption is increasing. I've seen even within the EdTech space, for example, there are certain brands who are very heavy on offline, specifically for their payment collection ecosystem. Again, in a space where it's K-12 learning up to K-12 running or sorts, where digital adoption wasn't that high, while the students are still learning online, but traditionally the selling as well as the fee collection processes were all offline in nature. All of these have now seen a focus shift towards the digital side, where they have call centers now. They have started adopting more of UPI, more of card payments as solutions that they have been enabled as well. While those were solutions that were existing pre-COVID as well, but now there is a renowned focus on those solutions now. Going to certain more categories like the offline world, it might be there might be some overlap with the D2C brands as well. They have started virtual tours as well for their own retail spaces. You can appoint a tour, and there would be a WhatsApp video call that would happen so that they can run you through the collections, and then you can pick, choose, and buy from those. So that's the new normal that I've been seeing in terms of adoption towards digital things. Also, one more sector that I've seen very heavily being invested by some of these FMCG majors, we worked with a few of them, is trying to also go down to the direct Kirana store and making them digitally enabled. That's a massive opportunity, and I've seen at least two of the brands that we work with focusing very heavily on that. Making sure that they have their own app ecosystems. So earlier it was essentially, you'll have a hub model where there would be some salespeople, distributor salespeople who will go and take orders, punch it on behalf of them, and then, collect orders, and then it would get distributed by the distributor. Now this has changed to, them enabling them directly via apps, but it's again not it's not a competition with the distributor. The distributor still gets the cut of the same sale. It's just that they are enabling directly the consumer, the end Kirana store, to be able to order digitally, and the fulfillment is still happening via the distributor over there. So some of these trends I've been seeing across the verticals. Very, very happy to see the kind of uptick in terms of how people are adopting the digital means. Different channels. Again, channel is something that people look at how their consumer space is, whether they are more tier one, more youth. So they might react to more push notifications, for example, or a web push. But if there are some old school people that you are trying to still target, so depending on the target market, you might want to adopt different channels of communication as well.
I have a slightly different view. So if I really put on my consumer hat, I would agree with you that BFSI has transformed very quickly. There were always front runners in the digital space. So if I have to recently I had to open a bank account, it was all done digitally, even my KYC, etc., and seamlessly. Or even to buy insurance, it's become like that. And FMCG as well is doing a lot of work in the hyperlocal space. I know that. But frankly, D2C, I think, still leaves a lot to be desired as a consumer. You go to the brand.coms and you try to open a website and it takes 10 seconds to just load on the mobile. I mean, that to me is base level, right? So my hope is that, brands, we as practitioners, whatever we've been saying for all this while, brands will actually see it from a consumer lens right now and try and get these irritants out from a consumer point of view. Well, it's easy for me to say that in the digital space. Pankaj, I want to ask you, because I would imagine beauty has the opposite problem, because as a consumer, when I went to a beauty store, I could try on the lip color on my face. I know there are, a lot of AR filters, etc., where I can help me do it, but it's not the same, right? I don't know how it's going to feel on my skin, like a particular lip color. And every lip color of a different brand feels differently, right? And, there's a consultant who's there to help you, guide you, what shade of red you want to pick, etc., etc. How are you recreating all those offline experiences effectively online? Or is it, I would imagine it's a really hard problem to solve. How are you solving for it?
No, so I completely agree. It's a good challenge, and we all have to agree that you can never replicate a true human connection, right? So everything is WIP as we speak, and we are pivoting, and everyone else is pivoting. But if you're asking a question, is it done? No, it is not yet done. The tech is making it possible, but it's still a journey which we are taking. And what is happening, digital is breaking the mold, and especially with the pandemic, we see consumers are also opening up to new tech solutions, to fulfill their shopping missions. Hence, the adoption is higher than in the past, right? Because here consumers have less choice, so they are going to an e-com platform. They are going to try a virtual try-on tool rather than going to a physical store. At the same time, what we see that the both world, which is digital and physical, are blending, and the purchase journey is not linear. It's a hybrid journey. So we are trying to provide consistent experience to the consumers, mirroring the way consumers naturally navigate the shopping journey. For L'Oreal, even before COVID, we had started to work to simulate offline experience online and targeted two key areas: enabling consumers to try the products, and secondly, provide information or advice like your beauty advisor in a store. The whole setup is enabled through a lot of predictive analytics and curated, and it largely leverages tech and machine learnings. One example is Modiface, which is a leading provider of augmented reality solutions, which we acquired 3 years back, long before the pandemic. It has the capability to provide immersive experience and real-time customization, enabling a very quick decision-making when you're shopping online. Another example is on the advice, right, which consumers normally seek during their offline purchase. And that has been enabled by creating a lot of relevant content on search, videos on how to use, skin diagnostic tools, influencers network, reviews, and creating live chatbots where we could directly answer any query of the consumer. So in a nutshell, what we are trying to do using a technology, but don't want to make consumer feel that it's a technology. How can we make it completely seamless or even better than their offline experience? So that's a challenge to the brands, and we are learning. The work is not yet done. There are a lot of things to fix, but there is clearly a great future ahead of creating the whole offline experience better than the online experience, better than the offline experience.
Right. Pankaj, I agree. I've been privy to some of the work that L'Oreal does in the technology space in India and globally, and for years now. And I know L'Oreal does some great work, but I agree with you that there's got to be a hybrid model, because if I'm a consumer who's used, let's say, a pink lip color and a red lip color, how would you convince me digitally that whether an orange would work for me or not? It's a hard one to do, right? So hybrid models are definitely, they're going to be necessary. And Karan, with that thought on hybrid models, I want to ask you, because yours is again an interesting business, right? Where your TG is actually the student who's, who's going to use the product, while actually it's the parents who also need to be convinced because they are eventually going to be paying the fee, right? So how are you thinking about addressing both the students and parents and looking at the consumer journey?
I think there are two, while they're interlinked, there are two separate points overall. For the parents, I think it's more to do with a brand building exercise. They need to have a brand that they trust. Education is of paramount importance to all parents, and if the brand is not trustworthy, then it's a very difficult choice to for them to make. As far as the students are concerned, the best way to do it is to understand or map the student journey out. I think a smart way that we operate in, or the smart way to function would be to put yourself in the customer's shoes or the student's shoes. So just understand what are the things they're doing, their habits, what leads to them choosing online, what are the kind of benefits that they are looking for, what are they looking for overall, and then we map out their journeys accordingly. We build integrated journeys on those firm foundations using those data points. Lastly, I think a very critical point would be to constantly and endlessly keep refining the user experience overall. I think these are the points that would have a smooth transition overall within the journey. A little bit of brand building, and then of course understanding exactly what the consumer wants, putting yourself in their shoes, and always operating with that as the first and only approach possible.
Karen, you put it very simply and nicely, but I know it's not, the plumbing and the engineering you do at the back is not always so
Of
simple.
course. Yeah. I mean, it's
it as a compliment. It's nice that you put it simply, but I recognize the work that you do.
It's a endless continuous learning effort, I think, overall, but it's also fun, the kind of data things throughout, and you learn. Sometimes you're moving in the wrong direction and you have to suddenly pivot into something else. So there are those challenges, but I've always felt the easiest way to do things is to understand what the consumer wants, or what our students want, what our learners want, and then build everything around that, be it brand, be it digital experience, be it anything that we use from a marketing tool.
But holding that same thought, Sujata, I want to ask you, what are the challenges that you face in the current digital ecosystem? We all want to work in the digital ecosystem. We want our brands to be there because the consumers are already there, right? But what are the areas of improvement? What are some of the challenges that you face?
So my co-panelists have all sort of outlined the real positives about this whole digital transformation, but I'm sure all of us are facing some challenges. So I actually just want to point out four, challenges and areas of improvement. The first is to remember that 80% of digital ads are being viewed by distracted, multitasking, and multi-screening consumers. Okay, so they're not focused on you or your brand or your message. So it's really important that the content we put out has to be engaging and relevant. And that brings me to my second point, which is you cannot just put a TVC that you have on mass media on digital and expect it to give you the same results. It's really important to tweak it to the digital viewing audience. And some of the areas, number one, make sure your brand message comes up in the first 5 seconds. As we know, most people watch 5 seconds and then they skip. So how do you make sure your brand message comes up in the first 5 seconds? Second is, how do you actually engage the users with content? So I'll give you a small example of what we did recently at Visa. So we just launched our e-commerce campaign, which is to sort of tell people how to use cards online. So the TV commercial was very simple, where it was, just showing an instance of how, someone purchases a product online, and that was it. However, when we took it to digital, what we did is then we actually really created use cases, which is, areas where people are today have moved from offline to online. So like I said, food delivery, grocery, pharma. And what we did is we tied up with 3 partners. So Swiggy for food delivery, Apollo Pharmacy for pharma, and Amazon Fresh for groceries. And we actually had, what we did is when you end the clip, we made it a shoppable asset where the customer could just go and click on that and land up on our partner's website and shop immediately. So, that sort of is one of the challenges that one has to do. So, which is to tweak your content to make sure that it is relevant for the digital. The third thing I find is really to identify what your KPI or key performance indicator is. So for example, if you want to drive visits to your site, putting up online videos on YouTube may not be the best, way to do it. So you really need to figure out what is your objective. And there are so many ways to do it on digital and social. So what's the right one? And what we've actually found is that people have a little bit more time these days, so they're really searching for offers. So offers is a great way to sort of drive traffic to your brand and to your site. And the fourth, and I really think this is an area of improvement which brands need to work on, is the reason brands in the past have typically spent much more on traditional media than digital was you could never identify measurable business results. That was like, I know if I put this much money on print or TV, this is how many views I get. But on, digital, and it's improved a lot. We do, like at Visa, we spend almost 50-50 on digital and TV. So, so we've seen that. But what I do think, and you did ask, apart from challenges, where is the area of improvement? I think this is the one big one. How do we as brands and as, companies tell our, show how, going digital and doing this whole transformation actually brings the business results?
No, thanks. Well, I will have a separate chat on you and a detailed chat on you, because I think all these, there is a way to look at it in the right way and a not so right way that maybe which is popularized by the digital industry, and, take that with you offline. But, you said something very interesting, which stuck on with me, is that consumers are distracted on digital, and there's so much content which is being thrown at them at all points in time, more than ever you can imagine in traditional forms. And Pankaj, I want to build on that and ask you, especially in your category where you have to constantly inspire, your customers, how do you and your brand win the customer love digitally?
Yeah, so Rubina, today, with the emergence of social media, both brands and consumers have a two-way street for all conversations. Everything could be amplified by just pressing the button, and no amount of brand communication is enough unless there's a brand love and trust. And during this time, as the panel spoke, there's a lot of clutter on digital. So how brands create more trust and affinity and love, that's one of the biggest challenge which is happening across the brands. And it's also important to define in the online world, what is brand love? How do you measure it? What are the KPIs you're going after? For L'Oreal, we define it based on the quality of engagement and experience we have with our brands and services. Are consumers liking our posts, messages? Are they sharing with their friends? Are they satisfied with our product quality and providing good reviews? So these are the few parameters. But I think largely the brand love is created by the experience we provide to the consumer, and that experience is from end-to-end experience and could be bucketed into three kind of what we call the moment of truth. So the first moment of truth is the zero moment of truth, where we are optimizing conversations on social for better brand perception through social listening and feedback channels. As we want to be very honest, attentive, and proactive in the conversations, what our consumers are doing on social media. Examples like a DIY, where there were a lot of queries and there were a lot of post consumer asking question that how could I color at home, and that was for us was a very strong signal, and we created this whole tech solutions to help the consumers to take that journey. The second, I think the first moment of truth, which is focusing on discoverability, helping people discover the brand with the right communication in the right context, be it a search ad, website, or listening on a marketplace. When consumer is actively looking for a solution, how could we get to the consumer with the right product offering? An example I would give, one of our hair color brand, we created 1.8 lakh creatives from 37 master creatives, which led to very high engagement. And this was done with the help of Google and machine learning. So where you could push a creative in the right context, answering the right query of the consumer. The second moment of truth is when consumers are exploring the product or consuming the product. When they want to know more about the product, how do I use it? What is the benefit? They want to talk to someone. And this, as I spoke, has been integrated in our services through tech, to bring the offline experience online through chatbots and virtual try-ons. So these are the 2-3, the important point of intervention which we do, to create the brand trust and affinity, and hence create brand love.
That's great, Pankaj. So what you're saying is that hear your consumers and personalize the experience and give them what they are asking for. Really.
Yeah.
Sujata, I want to ask you, all of us, I think as marketers are still looking at the largest cities, if I could say top 8 cities, but the fact of the matter is that India's hit the 500 million internet users, and there are first time rural internet users, which are more in number than the urban users. So what is your strategy? Are you listening to them? Are you doing something for them? So what is your Bharat strategy?
So, you really touched upon a very, very important point, which is that regionalization of content today is key, because this whole spread of going online, using the internet has gone far past metros, and it's really touched almost all parts of the country. And for us specifically, the need for people to move from cash to cashless is not something just in the cities. In fact, the government has made it their agenda of going cashless. So very, very much a strategy to focus on all of Bharat rather than the top metros. However, what we've seen is that when you have more complex messaging, that's when the need for more regional languages, regional strategy is needed. As something as simple as, you can go online and pay with your card, what we've seen is there has been equal, results, whether it's, it's English or whether it's in a, local language. However, when you go to this tier 2, tier 3, it's about educating, the consumers there that you don't need to use cash. Card is safe, secure. There is encryption. Obviously, that all will not work in, just the way we would talk about it in metros and in English. So there is a need to, do educational videos in local languages that are relevant for them. So, there is a clear strategy that we have to adopt for complex products, simpler products, and definitely, yes, go beyond metros into Bharat. And the other big difference, what we've seen, is between the rural and the urban consumer. Today, rural consumers, like we said, they are becoming first-time users of the internet, of online, of cashless. And for them, it's all about educating them, almost hand-holding them in a online scenario. So you're not there, but you have to be able to answer their questions. And that's where we say we come up with more educational things, while people like us who are evolved users, it's more about how do we make your life simpler. So can we, whether it's face to face and say, just tap to pay without having to go through an OTP and a PIN, make your transactions seamless. A lot of e-commerce digital products we're doing to make transactions faster, because with the internet disruptions, a lot of times transactions drop midway. So how do we move faster? So, we have to balance both of that. So I would say that, during this period, especially the past 5 months, we've ensured we're speaking to all of India, which is the metros as well as Bharat. And we've seen that there's a huge difference in messaging that needs to go out. And we're trying to make sure we speak to both. And eventually what we do believe is even the whole, all Bharat will also become, more evolved users. And then there will be one chain of communication, but of course in different languages, which is necessary.
Absolutely. And, furthering that thought, Karan, I want to come to you. So what Sujata said is that you have to have different cohorts of your audiences, understand them, their needs, and whether the products that you're giving to them and the marketing that you're doing to them has to be done differently. It has to be personalized. And to do any of this, we all know we need rich data. So Karan, can you talk a little bit about your data strategy? Because I know that in your industry, there's a lot of personalization that is happening.
Yeah, I think it's very important to acquire rich first-party data, and there are traditional ways to do it, like Google Analytics, SMS, social media, email. beacons and all of the traditional tools that we mobile apps and everything else that we traditionally use. But we've done a few different things at Unacademy. I think we've used a brand in a very different way to try and get rich data. What we did was we started an initiative called Legends on Unacademy, which is basically pioneers of different industries coming in and nurturing students, motivating them, talking to them, sharing insights and true life lessons. Through this, what happened is there were a lot of students or learners on the platform that were waiting to see, or a little hesitant to start learning online. But when you tell them that Virat is going to be taking a class, or Kevin O'Leary is going to be taking a class, or Sudhamurthy is going to be taking a class, they're like, oh, let me go see what they have to say. Saurabh Ganguly was taking a class. So Mary Kom was there. We had so many people. And then once they had the experience overall, and that brought in a lot of students coming in, at an average about 30,000 students, taking a session at a time. I think one of the classes peaked at about 50,000 plus students, which is technically 1.5 times Wankhede Stadium in one class, through a lockdown. So we managed to acquire users or get users or learners to come in and experience the platform through this mechanism. And then, of course, using those learnings, their habits, what they do, and build the entire, consumer journey, keep it frictionless, of course, and then hopefully convert them into, using the funnel that we've built for ourselves. So simply put, I think we've used multiple brand levers or pulled multiple brand levers to draw traffic to the platform, attention to the platform, and then collate that data and build, further on it.
So in essence, what I'm taking away from this is that what all of you are saying is that, personalization is really the key, and you need basically to have the right product, the right communication, right data, get it to work together to deliver the brand experience, right? Very quickly, Klur, and I'm conscious of time, can you give me your favorite example in that space?
Right. I'll pick another EdTech example. I think EdTech is my favorite in this case. So while Karan mentioned about Unacademy, I would like to pick a brand called as QMath or QLearn, that they have rebranded themselves as. What they have done essentially is they have multiple personas of people. I think earlier you mentioned and you asked Karan as well around the fact that there is, while the student is a consumer of information, but the fees are something that the parent would be shelling out, for example, right? In their case, they have these multiple personas of parent, student, and the teacher. And what they have done very specifically is have made very specific pages for each of these personas. So they work in a hyperlocal model where there will be different centers of education in each society, in each neighborhood that you will see, and the teachers would be someone from your own neighborhood who would be teaching out maths to your kids, right? So they have made sure that in this hyperlocal space, they cater to the right set of teachers. They have the right communication going out to teachers. They co-brand QMath and the teacher in their neighborhood so that they can attract, local students out there. And, there is seamless communication, which is personalized, one-to-one personalized for every student. And based on what the student does, there is a communication to the parent that's going out. So if he's doing good in the class, it's good. If he's not attending the class, then there would be communication to send him to the class and ask him why he's not attending, for example. And to a teacher, for example, as a reminder to collect the fees, and also the parent to pay the fees, for example, for a student. So while the doer is the student who is consuming the education, but there are these different personas for which they have ensured that there is one-to-one personalization that is possible as well, based on what the student is doing in the class. So that's one of very good examples of how you do personalization for multiple personas across the brand.
Fantastic. I think the possibilities in digital are endless if we put our minds to it. Yeah. With that, I know we're running out of time, but I'm not going to let you all go without my rapid fire. And Pankaj, I'm going to start with you first. It's the rules are simple. It's the coffee with Karan, or I should say coffee with Rubina kind of a rapid fire. Pankaj, I'm going to start with you. So simple, short, one-line answers or one-word answers get you more points. Okay, the first one, digital or retail? Choose one.
Digital.
Okay. What percentage of your spends go on digital? And you can give me a range if you don't want to give me the exact figure.
20 to 30.
Fantastic. Okay. Rate these three in order of preference: Google, Facebook, Amazon.
Amazon, Facebook, and Google.
Ooh, I hope Google's listening. Okay. A personal one. What form of communication do you prefer? Email, WhatsApp, phone calls?
WhatsApp.
WhatsApp. Okay. Thank you. You did very well. And you were very candid. Sujata, you next. Wallets or cards?
Cards.
Okay. What is your current focus? India or Bharat?
Both, actually, honestly.
You have to pick one. That gets disqualified. Current focus for the next 3 months.
India.
What percentage, again, you can give me a range, of your investments will move into building digital capabilities? So not digital marketing, so digital transformation.
Well, actually, quite a bit. So as I already told you, in digital marketing, we spend almost 40% on this. Building digital capabilities an equal amount.
Okay. Personal one, rate in order of preference: the Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. Personal preference.
Personal. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn.
Okay. You did well too. Thank you. And Karan, your turn now. For your business or your industry in the long run, digital or a hybrid model?
Digital.
Digital. Okay. Which part of digital spends will rise faster? Will it be towards digital marketing or marketing automation?
Marketing automation.
Okay. Google or Facebook?
Google.
Google. And the last one, personal one, something new that you've used digital for in the last 3 months, something you've never used digital for before.
I think the Legends on Unacademy initiative, we built the funnel using faces for the brand.
Personal one, something that you have personally.
I don't think I've had the time to do it, to be very honest, personally. But I've been using LinkedIn extensively, if that qualifies.
Okay. Well, there's a lot more to discover on digital on a personal front, Karan. You should make some time for yourself. Yeah. Cute for you. Digital, you think, is an immediate objective for businesses, or they're building digital for their immediate needs or for long-term needs? How are businesses looking at digital?
Long-term.
Long-term, okay. Marketing automation, CMO or CTO?
CPO, I would say. I would allow the CPO, to be honest. But yeah, CTO, there's definitely a lot of tech involved.
That was an honest answer. And the last one for you is one thing you don't like about digital, personal.
It's untimely nudges, non-personalized communication as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, my lovely panelists. It was a thoroughly enjoyable conversation for me, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. Thanks once again for being part of the Brand Equity Martech Dialogues.
Thank you, Rubina.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rubina.